This video is to show you how to use the TI-84 calculator to solve logarithmic equations and graph logarithmic functions in section 4.3. The first thing you need to know about logarithms, or logs for short, is that they are a form of the exponential function. They are in fact the inverse exponential function. Note the definitions of the logarithms provided, where the x and the y terms are interchanged. To solve a log function by hand, you need to rewrite it as an exponential function and then solve for x. Notice that in this example, x is the base, that the 3 is the power of the exponent, and that the 1/8 is the argument of the logarithm, or the value of the exponential function. Like in section 4.2, to cancel the power on the x, you must raise both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of the exponent on the x. Notice 3 times 1/3 equals 1, and -2 times -1/2 is also equal to 1. To solve the equation using the TI-84 calculator, set the left-hand side of the equation equal to y1. Set the right-hand side of the equation equal to y2. To solve the first equation on the left using the TI-84 calculator, press y equals. If something is in y2, press clear. Press math and use the up or down arrows to find the log base, and select it by pressing enter. Type in x and the right arrow. Press alpha, y equals number 1. Type in 1 and the down arrow. Type in 8 and press the down arrow. If something is in y2, press clear. Type in 3. Press graph. If the graph is not in the standard window, press zoom 6. Make sure you can see the intersection point. To solve an equation, you need to be able to see the intersection point of the graphs. You can see the intersection point. Press second, calculate. Select number 5, intersect. Notice there is no y equal value present on the screen. This intersection function will not work if there is not a y equal to value present. Use the left or right arrows to move the x near the intersection point. Just don't go too far. If you go to the part of the blue graph that does not intersect the red line, the intersection function will not work either. Press enter 3 times. Notice the intersection x equal to 0.05 at the bottom of the screen. This is a decimal, and we cannot use this answer in its decimal form. It must be converted to a fraction. To do this, press second, quit. Press math and select number 1, frac for fraction. Press enter. This gives the answer of 1/2. To solve the second equation on the right using the TI-84 calculator, press alpha y equals. If something is in y1, press clear. Press math and use the up or down arrows to find the log base, and select it by pressing enter. Type in x and the right arrow. Type in 25 and the down arrow. If something is in y2, press clear. Type in -2. Press graph. Make sure you can see the intersection point. You can see the intersection point on this graph. Press second, calculate, select number 5, intersect. Notice there is no y equal to value present on this screen. This intersection function cannot work if there is not a y equal to value present. Use the right or left arrows to place the x near the intersection point. Press enter 3 times. Notice the intersection x equal to 0.2 at the bottom of the screen. This is the decimal, and we cannot use this answer in its decimal form. It must be converted to a fraction. To do this, press second quit. If the last command shown is still answer frac, press enter. This gives an answer of 1/5. If the last command is not answer frac, then press math. Select number 1 for frac for fraction, and press enter. And this will also give the answer of 1/5. On the next slide, notice there are 2 properties at the top of the page. These properties exist because exponentials and logarithms are inverse functions and can cancel each other out. To solve this equation, first convert the cubic root of 12 into 12 to the 1/3 power. Now the log base 12 cancels the argument of 12. This leaves us with an answer of 1/3. To solve this equation using the TI-84 calculator, press math and use the up or down arrows to select log base, and select it by pressing enter. Type in 12 and the right arrow. Press math and select number 5, the x root of. Type in 3 and press the right arrow. Type in 12 and press enter. This gives an answer of 0.3 repeating. This is the decimal. We cannot use this answer in its decimal forms. It must be converted to a fraction. To do this, select math, select number 1 frac for fraction, press enter, and that will give the answer of 1/3. To graph logarithmic functions, first take the argument and set it equal to 0. This is what will produce a horizontal shift. Solve the resulting equation for x if necessary. The equation of the vertical line is the vertical asymptote for this logarithmic function. The logarithmic function will be on the right or left-hand side of the asymptote. If x is positive, it is on the right. This means that the domain will be from the right of the asymptote to infinity. If the x is negative, then the graph will be on the left of the asymptote, and the domain goes from negative infinity to the left of the asymptote. The vertical asymptote excludes that value from being included in the domain. For logarithms, the range is always all real numbers. Now look for the value that is 1 unit away from the asymptote. If x is positive, add 1. If x is negative, subtract 1. In a function without a vertical shift, this x value will produce a y equal to 0. In a function with a vertical shift, the x value will produce a y value equal to the vertical shift. From this point, as you move 1 unit up or down from the y, the x distance from the asymptote will change by a power of the base of the logarithm. The asymptote is at y equal to 0. X is positive. So the graph is on the right of the asymptote. There is no vertical shift, so y equals 0. Look at the first example. As y increases by 1, the x value doubles. As y decreases by 1, the x value is cut in half. All these are powers of 2. Look at the second example. The vertical asymptote is shifted 1 unit to the right. But 1/2 base is still a base of 2. Because 1/2 is the reciprocal of 2. This makes the second function an x reflection of a base 2 logarithm. Logarithms with fractional bases whose values are between 0 and 1 exclusively are x-axis reflections of logarithms with their reciprocal bases. All the x values are powers of 2 in distance from their asymptote. To see it, subtract 1 from all the x values. You will get powers of 2. This means that when you graph this function, you can either use the base of 1/2 or use the base of 2 and select x-axis reflection to graph this function. Look at the third example on the next slide. Setting the argument equal to 0 and solving gives us x equal to 8 as your asymptote. This shifts the graph horizontally 8 units to the right. The negative in front of the x indicates that the graph will be on the left of the asymptote. This is an example of y-axis reflection. If you subtract x from 8, you get powers of 4. Notice, since the graph is on the left of the asymptote, we are subtracting the asymptote value instead of the other way around, as in other examples. Look at the last example. Set x plus 2 equal to 0. This gives x equal to -2. This is your asymptote. This is a horizontal shift to the left. Now, 1 unit from the asymptote, the y value is 4, not 0. This is an example of a vertical shift. The x is positive, so the graph is on the right of the asymptote. This logarithm has a base of 3. If you subtract -2 from all x values, you get powers of 3. Just as exponents change the y value by its powers of its base, the x values change by powers of their bases, because logarithms are the inverses of the exponents. Now let's see how to graph these functions using the TI-84 calculator. For the first function, press y equals. If something is in y1, press clear. If something is in y2, press the down arrow, press clear, and then press the up arrow. Press math and use the up or down arrows to find the log base. Select it by pressing enter. Type in 2 and the right arrow. Type in x and press graph to see the graph. Press second table to see the table and use the points as needed. Notice that all x values that are 0 or less give an error message. This is showing the domain problem of the function. Press second quit. For the second function, press y equals. Press clear to clear y1. Press math and use the up or down arrows to find the log base. Select it by pressing enter. Type in 1 divide 2 and press the right arrow. Type in x, subtract 1. And press graph to see your graph. Press second graph to see the table and use the points as needed. Notice all x values which are 1 or less gives an error message. This is showing you the domain problem of the function. For the third function, press clear to clear y1. Press math and use the up or down arrows to find the log base. Select it by pressing enter. Type in 4 and press the right arrow. Type in 8 subtraction x and press graph to see the graph. Press second table to see the table and use the points as needed. Notice all the x values 8 or greater give an error message. This shows the domain problem of this function. For the fourth function, press y equals. You do not have to clear it every time. Press the right arrow, type in 3, and press the right arrow. Type in x plus 2 and press the right arrow. Type in plus 4 and press graph to see the graph. Press second graph to see the table and use the points as needed. Notice all x values, which are -2 or less, give an error message. This is showing the domain problem of this function. We're done.